Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Welcome, PR Maven Nation, to today's podcast, episode 249, which is just like amazing. Presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan 65-Step Strategic Process. For those of you new to the show, I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. Welcome to the show. And with me today, I have this wonderful group of guests. It's the most guests I've ever had on a podcast. It's just great. I've got Lisa and Scott Wentzell and their son, Scotty Wentzell, who's the star of the book that we're going to be talking about, and Heidi Bullen, who's the co-author, who's on her lake up in Skowhegan today. So we're glad through the miracle of technology that Heidi can join us. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to just read your bio. Lisa and Scott Wentzell moved to Maine full-time in 1993 when they both took jobs at Sugarloaf, and I happened to have been there, and I met them then. By the late 90s, Lisa was the accounting manager and Scott was the marketing director for Sugarloaf. When their son Scotty was born in November of 2000 with a serious congenital heart defect, and what they could soon learn was a chromosomal disorder that causes physical and developmental delays, they made the decision to move to the Portland area to be closer to his doctors and the services he was going to require. Lisa became a full-time mom with a career caring for Scotty, while Scott held positions at Thomas Mosher Handcrafted American Furniture, James D. Julia Auctioneers, and Maine Magazine before his current position at Wex. Lisa and Scott are dedicated to assuring Scotty enjoys all that life has to offer. And I can vouch for that because I follow their socials, and I just can't believe all that they do to make sure that Scotty can participate in all the activities. And we'll talk about that a little more. Lisa recently co-wrote a book with Heidi Bullen called A Dog and His Boy, The Adventures of Spillway and Scotty. With the book's amazing success, Lisa and Scotty's purpose now is to share their empowering message of inclusion, acceptance, and friendship. And Heidi, who is also on this amazing tour that they've been taking, is a national board certified third grade teacher at Crescent Park Elementary School in Bethel, Maine, and a published author. I think this is your third book, Heidi. Is that right?
It is.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. So, Scott, you're first. Tell us about Scotty's birth and how you and Lisa pivoted your lives to give him the best life possible.
Sure, thank you. So Scotty was born on November 17th, 2000. And after what was a pretty unremarkable pregnancy for Lisa, he was a week overdue. And so we went in for tests, normal for any expecting mother in that situation. And we learned during the testing that something was not right with him. And as they were checking him out, they realized his heart was not responding the way they wanted it to during the test. So they decided right there and then to do an emergency C-section. So kind of unexpected the way it all started off. He was born in Farmington, Maine, where my mom grew up, where I go back 3 or 4 generations of my family. And it was quite quite an evening of surprises and challenges. But after he was born, And the Franklin Memorial staff was amazing. And he was born and moved right into their NICU, which was probably not quite as big as this studio at the time. And he was the only baby in there and had almost every piece of equipment hooked up to him. And as I looked over my shoulder, I saw there was a plaque in that room that said the equipment in this room provided or donated by Jim and Barbara Flint, who are my grandparents, Scotty's great grandparents. And it was that moment that kind of put a calm over me, like things are going to work out. This is going to be okay. And so he ended up getting rushed down to Portland, and Lisa went the next morning because she just had a C-section. So she went by ambulance the next morning, and we knew pretty quickly that he had a pretty serious heart defect. They diagnosed him that when he first arrived there with a condition called tetralogy of Fallot, required heart surgery at 5 days old, again at 6 months old. And in that intervening period, we learned that there was an underlying chromosomal disorder that was also going to lead to developmental and physical delays in terms of his development. And between the everything that was going on with his heart and needing to be close to the medical community and the services that we were starting to understand we were going to need, we made a pretty quick decision. Both, I would say, the hardest and easiest decision that we've had to make along this journey to move from Sugarloaf and move down to the Portland area to be closer to his the services that he would need. And so that was a decision we made, after some discussion, obviously, but still, it was like, I described the night he was born like a switch went off in my head. Like I wasn't sure what to expect of being a parent, but as soon as he was born, that parental instinct just kicked in, and it all became about really focusing on him and what he was going to need, and how we could give him every opportunity to thrive, within his abilities. And so the move from Sugarloaf was a difficult choice on the one hand, because that was where my roots are and where my family was involved with starting Sugarloaf and kind of my dream job, but it all took a back seat to really doing what we needed to do for Scotty. So by that November, he was born in November. I would say by Christmas, we had made the decision that we were going to move and started that process, which I think it was March or April before we actually made the full-time move and transitioned out of both of our jobs at Sugarloaf. And I started at Thomas Moser that spring and was there 15 years. But so that beginning part of the journey was I guess traumatic on one hand, but also very just instinctual on the other hand, I guess.
It's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And yeah, I was still living at Sugarloaf at the time and remember witnessing everything what you guys have done since is just nothing short of remarkable.
Oh, thank you.
So Scotty, you have something that you wanted to say too, and Scotty communicates through his iPad.
You guys are great.
We gotta turn the windows off. I didn't realize they were on. Okay, you ready?
Hi, Nancy. It's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for inviting us to be on your podcast today. I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
job.
I love that Scotty can communicate through his iPad. So with us today is also Spillway, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce Spillway, but the title of the book is A Dog and His Boy, and it's written in the voice of the dog, which is Spillway. So do you want to tell us, how did Spillway get his name and how did they meet each other?
Sure. So they first met in 2009, which it was for Scotty's birthday. And Scotty never liked small stuffed animals. And I happened to be at L.L. Bean and saw this Melissa and Doug stuffed yellow lab. And I thought maybe a life-size dog might be more to his liking. So I said, let's just get it for his birthday. And we presented Spillway to Scotty on his 9th birthday, and they've been together ever since.
And now he's 22.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And there have been many Spillways in between. This is not the original Spillway because he loves them so much that we need to get new Spillways. But when we first got him, we needed to come up with a name. And since we love Sugarloaf so much, we just took the trail map out and went across and landed on Spillway, and that's how he got his name.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that connection to Sugarloaf, because really that's a thread that runs through this whole book and project.
And why all of us are here
and why
together
all of us
today.
are here,
also.
between us living at Sugarloaf and working with Heidi and her husband Dana at Sugarloaf when we were all there together, and meeting Nancy when we were there. The illustrator of the book, Claudia Diller, is also another person who we met working at Sugarloaf. So the Sugarloaf, even though we had to leave living at Sugarloaf, it's never left us, and it's always will be a part of us. And I think that's one of the beauties about Sugarloaf. Anyone who's a loafer or Sugarloafer sort of knows that connection kind of stays with you no matter
That's right.
where you physically are.
Oftentimes in my PR practice, I talk to clients about the whole concept of Sugarloafers and how it's kind of part of your DNA. It's part of your personal brand.
Yeah,
And if you're a Sugarloafer, you get that.
that's right.
So, Scotty, how do you like being on this book tour?
You got to answer your question. You
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah,
Okay. Let's make sure.
it's really amazing because I had talked to Lisa before the pandemic about doing a book and a tour like this, and Lisa was like so nervous.
Yes.
But now it's
Second nature
Yeah.
now. Yes.
So, Scotty, how do you like being on the book tour?
Ready?
I love being on the book tour, sharing my story and message of acceptance, inclusion, and friendship. I love meeting new people, and I've been giving lots of fist bumps in spillways, getting lots of love too.
It's true. I have been to some of the book talks that they've had, and it's just amazing how Scotty loves having an audience and people cheering for him and giving him fist bumps. So, Scotty, how about a fist bump now?
Do a fist bump for Nancy.
Yeah.
Sometimes a very
points.
delicate fist
Oh, me
bump.
too. Thank you.
So, Lisa, tell us about your career path and your decision to pivot when Scotty was born.
Right. So originally, I was all about fashion, wanted to be in fashion marketing, went to undergraduate school for that. And then I ended up going to Bentley to get my master's in accounting. And after I graduated, I moved to Sugarloaf with Scott. and there wasn't a lot for me there at first. So I started out at the ski shop and worked there for a while. And then there was an opening in the accounting department. So I got in there. And then eventually Bev left and I was able to get her accounting management position. And I loved it because I was like, I could communicate with all the different departments. I knew all the department managers, and it was really fun. And I remember packing up. I had the appointment because I was a week overdue, and got my office all ready. I thought I was still coming back. I didn't realize what was going to be happening. But I left on, it was a Friday. We left, went down to Franklin Memorial, and then Scott told the story, what happened from there. And it was, I feel like we got on the roller coaster and we just were on this ride. And after we knew everything that was going on with Scotty and that he had a rare syndrome that could cause developmental delays, even though they really couldn't tell us what his future would be like, I don't know, I just felt like I knew he was the priority and we needed to make sure we did everything we could for him. So at that point, I knew I had to focus my time on Scotty, and I'm very thankful for Scott being able to support us and for me being able to stay home with Scotty and start on physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And there's a lot that's involved with that too, because you have to apply for Katie Beckett, and I had to go to Child Development Services to help me apply for that, so we could get those services covered for him. So there's just a lot involved, and then finding where he was going to go to developmental preschool. So it was really I'm very fortunate that I was able to focus my time on just making sure he got what he needed.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful story. And I think that the two of you are role models for parents everywhere of,
Oh.
making your children their priority. And
And
that's a beautiful thing.
we didn't have any other children, so we didn't have anything to gauge against. And so Scotty was, for us, that's the way it is. Like, we just did what we needed to do. And it just kind of fell into place, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you remember talking with me before the pandemic? Because I moved to Portland in 2016, and I remember coming over to your house. And
Right.
these guys are also amazing hosts, and Lisa's an amazing cook. And I remember having dinner and like, you guys should do a book and go on a book tour. And you could do speaking engagements. And Lisa was like, I could never do that. But now you're like a different human. So what happened over the course of the pandemic?
Well, it's just, well, I know that it's important to share Scotty's story, and I'm passionate about that. And when you talk about something that you know and that you love, it's easy to do it. And I remember Heidi and I did our first book reading at the Congregational Church in Bethel, and it was pretty amazing. And I remember getting up there. We each had a book, and we alternated reading pages together. And I remember holding the book, and I was really impressed with myself because it wasn't going like this. And I was like, I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And just the response that we get after we do a presentation and how well received it is, lots of emotions.
Even you guys get emotional because
Yes.
I've seen how.
Yes, sometimes we do.
It just comes out of nowhere.
Right.
You're crying.
It depends on what part. It's either like the beginning of the book or the last page when we do the letter from Spillway to the reader.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of comes over you, and depending on where we are, or maybe who we're talking to, but it's just, and that's okay to show that.
Yes, it is.
And other people feel like that too. And after that presentation at the church, a man came up to us, and he was in tears and very emotional about the book. And then the thank you letters from kids that we get are amazing. In one of our presentations, a little boy, not a little boy, this was middle school in Bethel. He raised his hand because we do a question period, and he said, can I come down and say hi? Can I say hi to Scotty? And so we had him come down, and they did a fist bump, and the kids just really take to Scotty, and that's the whole point. We want them to be comfortable with Scotty. We want them to be comfortable with people like Scotty and not be afraid to go up with that to them and make a friend and have a friendship. So it's all the positive stuff that comes out of this makes you want to go back for more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also what we're seeing is it also makes people want to share the book so that other children and families can have the story. So far the book is going to be in all of the school and town libraries, at least in most of Maine, thanks to my client, Central Maine Power.
Yes, yeah, we're excited for that.
And then many other schools have bought copies for all their students,
Yes.
including Heidi's school.
Yeah, Crescent Park. And then Scarborough K through 2 schools, all the kids there have a book. 700 books went to all the K through 2 kids there, and they're each classroom and the 3 libraries in their 3 elementary schools.
It's a miracle.
Yes, yes.
So Heidi, we're going to include you now. How did you get involved in this project?
Well, I've of course known Lisa and Scott for over 30 years, right? I think Cody's going to be 29, so I think about 30 years. And so again, we were all living at Sugarloaf, and I will never forget the day that I think we were at Winger and Dye's house having a big dinner, and Scott and Lisa arrived home from the hospital and had Scotty in his little carrier, and they came in, and we all cheered, and we were just so happy to see them. And so, as a friend, and just watching Scott and Lisa on this journey is just incredibly amazing. They are a true testament to parents everywhere, including children, that don't have any disabilities or challenges. I mean, Scott and Lisa have provided this incredible life for him that is breathtaking. I mean, they have more fun than I do. They go all kinds of places, and Scotty is just absolutely blessed, and Scott and Lisa are blessed, and we are all blessed beyond that, because they truly send a message to all of us about how to just be positive and just take everything and enjoy every moment, and make it the best that it can be.
I agree with that. Absolutely. I've been receiving these notes and cards that they send on holidays. Scotty sends these cards with some help from his mother, I believe. And then the wonderful dinner parties we've had together, and just like you said, making the most of every day, and making the best of it. So.
And I think it's important that to say that I've always considered us to be very fortunate to have Scotty, and our parent experience. I don't look at it as being any harder than anyone else's. I mean, we both have brothers that have 3 and 4 kids, and their experience as parents, and your experience as a parent, and your experience as a parent is no easier than ours, or it's just different. It's just a different experience, and we all want to do what's best for our kids and give them the best opportunity to have a successful and happy and fulfilling life. And that's what we focused on with Scotty. It's maybe sent us down a path that isn't typical for a lot of parents, although there are a lot of parents that are on a very similar path to ours. And we just try to do everything we can for our family. And in that respect, we're just like everybody else, I guess, or that's the way I like to look at it anyway.
Yeah. I remember hearing you say that, and it's like, wow, yeah, that's really the way that you've been, and you've tried to avail him of every opportunity. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. But Scott, how has it been for you watching Lisa and Heidi with this transformation that they've gone through?
It's been so remarkable. I mean, as you said, there was, and we've had the opportunity to do a lot of, bring a lot of attention to Scotty and a lot of the nonprofits that he's worked with. When they've had media coverage, they've often asked us to be interviewed, whether it's a newspaper or a television interview or something along those lines. Commercial, TV commercials for different organizations that we've been a part of, and Lisa's always sort of wanted to be in the background of those, and sort of let me, as the marketing person in the family, be the spokesman, if you will. And watching that sort of flip while during this process with the book has been really cool to watch her sort of come out of her shell and sort of lead now in that space and be the family spokesman in a lot of ways. And I just think it's awesome. And I give a lot of credit to Heidi and to you, Nancy, for helping coach Lisa along the way, both in terms of putting the book together and then everything that's come since. It's been really fun to watch. And it was perfect timing for Scotty aging out of school last November when he turned 22 to now have the book launching. And it's become sort of Scotty's job, along with Lisa, to go and Heidi to go and introduce A Dog and His Boy to the world and share their story of inclusion, acceptance, and friendship. And that's the mission now.
And I just want to add that I couldn't do it without Heidi by my side. So she gave me a lot of strength to be able to do it. And it might have been a different story if I was by myself, but having her there, I can totally do it because she brings a lot of strength and support and confidence and fun and laughter.
Yeah.
Lisa, I've been blessed because you've asked me to be part of it. And I never take that for granted. This is an amazing opportunity.
Well, now that I'm crying, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back with more from Scott Scotty, Lisa, and Heidi to talk about A Dog and His Boy.
Sprague & Curtis is a locally owned real estate company. We're primarily focused in central Maine. I got excited about Nancy's book because she's so well known in the area for her marketing and branding techniques, and we're always looking to expand and learn and grow. And so a lot of us here at the office decided that we wanted to read her book and learn some new techniques.
It benefits Sprague & Curtis to have a large brand and audience because there can often be multiple years between transactions with clients. So it's important to network with them and stay in touch with them in those in-between periods. And this book really helped us learn some techniques and methods to continue to do that. We organized a small book group with Nancy's book with brokers in our office this winter to share information and remind ourselves how important it is to always be working on our network and continually reaching out to our customers.
Platforms like social media are important in expanding your business, but equally as important are handwritten notes, cards, letters. She inspired me to send her a note of appreciation, just thanking her for the book and her insight. In reading Nancy's book, I was excited to look to continue to grow our brand and our audience. I think she does a great job of motivating us.
Nancy's book really helped me learn a few things in marketing and branding and how important it is to stay on top of reaching out to clients periodically, staying top of mind, providing useful information, and really telling our story as a company.
How did it all get started? Here we are again. So, Scott, what are your hopes? What are your hopes for the changes that the book will make and the impact it will have on all of the nonprofits that have been included?
Yeah, I think from the beginning, this has been a way to share Scotty's story with the world, and hopefully, Lisa talks about it a lot. One of the ways we found out about a lot of the activities and organizations that we've engaged with Scotty is through other parents and other families and word of mouth. And we wanted to, as much as we wanted to tell Scotty's story, we also wanted to shine a light on those organizations and let other families who might be in a similar position know that there is support out there. There are ways to do all these amazing activities, no matter what your child's ability may be. And so it was really important to Lisa and Heidi and all of us to have in the book, in the back, there's a section that shows Scotty doing all the activities that he's described doing in the book, that's written about in the book. So organizations like, and I'm just going to list them off here: Equip for Living, Maine Adaptive Sports and Recreation, Special Olympics, Best Buddies Maine, Riding to the Top Therapeutic Riding Center, Pine Tree Camp, Portland Wheelers, and Special Surfers are all featured along with their websites in the book because Scotty is doing those activities in the book. And there are other organizations that we've worked with along the way as well. And we talk about those on our website and in the talks that we do. So part of it, this whole experience is just really trying to share the gospel of Scotty. And of course, sometimes he cooperates and sometimes he doesn't.
He's on the floor right now.
Scotty's always on the go, so he likes to be moving all the time. So sitting in one place is not necessarily his one of his strengths, but we'll just adjust on the fly as we go here.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the spreading the word about not just about Scotty and Spillway and all the things they do, but also about the nonprofits and where those opportunities lie for other families was an important part of this for all of us. And we're hoping through doing podcasts and we've had some great media exposure and interviews, but we really just want to keep the momentum going and just get this story out there. It's of course we love to sell books, but it's as much about, this is a mission oriented sort of endeavor for us more than a commercial one. So the more people and lives that we can touch and reach, I think the more success we look at this whole project having.
And you created a website
we did,
where people can link to buy the book.
Yes, spillwayandscotty.com is our website. It has all of the nonprofits are linked there. There's a page that features all of them. There's also a section of where we're going to be giving different talks and what's coming up and where they can meet Spillway and Scotty. And then there's also a blog that shows all the things that we've done and recaps different events and things that we do with Scotty in his life, so people can see all the amazing activities and how it just continues to roll.
So that's at spillwayandscotty.com.
Yes.
Great. So there's also a song that has been written by Jason McClure, who's a singer, songwriter who lives in Farmington and performs at Sugarloaf regularly.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about that and the event that we had at the Woodshed in Manchester?
Sure. Yeah, it's again, Sugarloaf, is the thread here that
Sugarloaf
connects
magic.
so many things. And we were actually all up at Sugarloaf and back in January. And Nancy actually met Jay at the Sugarloaf Hotel. He was playing there, and Nancy is the ultimate networker and connector. And I don't even know how you got on the topic of us in the book, but somehow Nancy got us there. And the way Jay describes it was he didn't sign a contract with Nancy, but he kind of felt like he did at the end of that conversation to write a song about the book. And I think he was really inspired. Jay is also a longtime supporter of Pine Tree Camp, and really, I think, was really engaged and intrigued by Scotty's story. And I think, I joke about him feeling like, he was, how he got involved with this, but I think it was really a passion project for him as well. And so he set out to write a song about the book, Spillway and Scotty, which he introduced a month and a half or so ago at a fundraiser up in Manchester for Pine Tree Camp. And
which was at the Woodshed, which is owned by the main Cabin Masters crew. So that was exciting.
So that was very cool. And the song was amazing, very well received. You can see a video of it on our website. And we're hoping to record it at some point.
Perhaps right here at the studio, which is in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
So that would be a great thing too.
And Jay's already said that if we can get it recorded and actually get it in a place where it can generate some revenue or some income, he wants all of it to go to the nonprofits that are in the book. So
that's awesome.
That's really exciting.
That's great. So Heidi, we don't want to forget about you up there in Skokie. What has been for you? What has it been like for you giving book talks all over the state with Lisa?
It's been absolutely amazing. It's my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, I have a full-time job teaching, so it's hard for me to get away. I'd love to do them all. And I was able to figure out how to do quite a few this year. I think going into schools, being a teacher, I have always, looked at children who can't communicate or talk and talk to them. So knowing that they understand and knowing that there's so much more inside there that they just aren't able to get out. And so being part of this and going to the schools and sharing the book and sharing Scotty's story and watching the children and their reaction. And Scotty truly is a hero. We ask him, who's famous, and Scotty's, he's always like me, and he really is. And for us to be able to work with children for so many years, I think the most important thing that we can do as educators is to teach children how important it is to include everybody, to make sure everybody belongs, to make sure you have empathy and you understand what other people are going through. And I think as educators and us being able to go share this book with so many people and touching those lives of the children when they're young just makes for better human beings. And I just am so blessed to be a part of it. And I love doing every single one of them. And Lisa, yes, we have gotten better. I think when we get a little bit more confident and a little bit more comfortable, and it's been fun to watch the whole thing evolve. And
Scotty agrees.
Right.
He loves doing
And I would just add to that too. I think watching these guys present to a school in particular, a group of elementary school students or middle school students, and watching the kids engage with the story and the comments and questions that we get from the kids are amazing. They're they're so sort of honest and in the moment. We get great questions. So they've done a lot of talks to entire student school bodies or classrooms of typical kids, but we've also done one in Buxton for an entire class of special needs students. And what was really remarkable about that is, a lot of the typical kids look at Scotty as an opportunity to engage with someone who might be a little bit different. And that's a big part of the message, is to embrace that. And they're very open to it. But in the case in Buxton, these were Scotty's peers, and they were looking at him as a role model, which was just so cool and amazing. And so all of the different facets of this have been truly remarkable and somewhat unexpected, I think, when we started on this journey. So watching that unfold and it has been great.
One of the things I like to talk about in my keynote speeches is what I call networking magic, and how when you meet a new person in a networking event, you shouldn't be like, oh, what's in this for me? But what kind of magic might come out of it? And it might just end up being somebody you have a cup of coffee with, or you meet for lunch. But it could be like magic that has happened here. Like all of the networking you're doing is leading to this Scotty magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And along those lines, Lisa wants to read something.
Yes, so this is part of Buxton Elementary, and we got the referral or in touch with them through Best Buddies. So there's the connection there for networking, and they reached out to us. But the woman that organized the event wrote this, and she said, "Today was an absolute top moment of my career. It was one of those days that has proven I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to, where I'm supposed to, surrounded by the most amazing staff and students. We were able to create an environment where all our intensive needs students were accepted and successfully together to listen to an incredible story of friendship and acceptance for a full hour. We even got to share the story to our mainstream classes. Thanks to the power of technology, inclusion matters. Everyone go out and support the amazing Lisa Wentzell, Scotty, and Spillway. They have left a long-lasting impression on us and are the absolute sweetest."
Oh,
So,
like beautiful.
that makes you want to go out and do this every single day.
We'll include that quote in our show notes as
Okay.
well.
Yes.
So, and I also want to give a shout out to Claudia Diller, who's the illustrator and artist. She's a friend of all of ours. She used to be the editor of the Irregular, which is the newspaper in Kingfield where I worked for a period of time. And her illustrations are just so colorful and vibrant and beautiful.
Yes.
Really adds to the appeal of the book. So
And Claudia is an amazing artist, and she's an artist first and has illustrated a few books. And this one obviously is our favorite because it's so personal to us. But she worked as a graphic designer with me when I was at Sugarloaf. She did a lot of work for me back then. So we've known each other for 30 years as well.
So one last question. Is there a book, a podcast, or an app that has been influential in your lives, and why?
Yes, for me is Facebook, and I was surprised, but it is, because when I first started using Facebook, it was more about showing people, our friends and family, all the things that Scotty has been doing, and that we're not sitting at home, we're not sad because Scotty is the way he is. We're out there and having a good time. I always talk about our adventure, what family adventure we're on today, and I love sharing everything he does. And then it was during the pandemic, I had posted, gave Scotty a new spillway, and someone had commented and said, there should be a children's book about Scotty and Spillway. And I said, I know, I to myself, I've been thinking of this. And it was that moment that I picked up my phone and texted Heidi and said, will you write this book with me?
Wow. When do you think that was?
It was in June of 2020.
Okay. So
before,
right
yes.
at the beginning of the pandemic.
And Heidi said, absolutely. And plus she was going to be done school, so she would have time.
Yeah.
So we Zoomed, and then it was time for we needed a publisher.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody. So I posted that on Facebook. And that's how I was connected with Stephanie at McSee Books, who published our book. And it was because of Facebook that I got that referral. I got a couple others too. But I wanted Stephanie because during our first conversation, I didn't realize this, but she had known Scotty because she was in ed tech to one of his classmates in 3rd or 4th grade. So there was another connection there where everything with this book, there's some sort of connection. And then, getting the word out about our book, but also there was a time when Spillway was discontinued from Melissa and Doug, and we posted that on Facebook, and we had probably about 75 or 80 of our friends email Melissa and Doug to their customer service department saying, we know this boy who loves this dog, please continue making him. And some people even committed to buying 5 or 10 Spillways for Scotty. So it's just been very influential or just helpful for us.
Networking magic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that experience when Spillways was discontinued, not only did people reach out to Melissa and Doug and ask them to keep making them, and we have connected with Melissa and Doug since. That's a whole nother part of the story, maybe for another podcast. But we started receiving Spillways in the mail. People were out buying them, finding them on eBay, finding them in different retail stores around the country. So we joke that we have, we get about 6 months out of each Spillway if we push it.
Because Spillway sometimes goes water skiing, wakeboarding.
He goes everywhere.
Yeah.
He's in, they sleep together. So Spillway can get a little worn out, and his ears get worn out, eyes fall off, legs break.
Like the Velveteen Rabbit.
Yeah. I think Scotty is probably not using as directed necessarily, but he gets a lot of use out of it. So we were really nervous when they stopped making them. That's why we sort of panicked, because we need to keep getting Spillway so we can keep replacing him and make him last forever. And so we have not only the Spillway graveyard up in our attic on one side, which is all the Spillways that have been used, because we can't throw them out.
No.
Put them up at the street for the trash guy to pick up. That's not happening. So we have all of those. But we also have about 20 or 25 new Spillways waiting in the wings that people have sent to us over the last year and a half or so since we found out the Spillway was discontinued. So we feel like we're in a good place, and although we'll always take more, if anyone sees a Spillway out there, please reach out. We'd love to work with you to get it, but and put it in the Spillway future pile, if you will. But that's another remarkable part of the story. And again, thanks to the power of Facebook, Spillway and Scotty will be together.
On.
Yeah, we'll be together.
Well, this is a podcast about PR, and I feel like the PR impact that the book is having, and the combination of generating media coverage in the traditional news media along with social media, doing both together, and really, also building the personal brand of Scotty Wentzell. I mean, that's something I love to talk about, is personal branding. And now Scotty has quite a strong personal brand. So it's a beautiful
and I
thing.
actually think about that a lot. And I follow Nancy, and like I said, we've known each other for years. So I always have in the back of my mind when I'm putting things out in the universe, whether it's on social media or doing talks like this, is, we have this brand that we've built and that we're building, and we want to make sure that we stay true to that. And it's really not hard, because it's at the end of the day, it's really just about who we are.
Right.
But it also is something I think what you preach, Nancy, is spot on, whether it's professional or personal. It's really important to maintain that consistency.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for joining us, Heidi and Scott, Lisa, and most of all, Scotty. Thank you for joining us today. And we hope that everyone has a great day in PR Maven Nation.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven Podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the skills and games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.